Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, but welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast, where your daily dose of inspiration and growth. I am your host, Nyomi Banks. And yesterday, Dr. Access shared a very powerful insight about how our brains can create lasting change through tolerance and plasticity, right? As well as adaptation. But today we are exploring how to put this understanding into practical action. But before we do that, let's take a quick break. And when we return, we will get deep into this topic, all right? It's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back. Hey, it's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to axnyomi.com and tell them Nyomi sent you. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, the goddess, Nyomi Banks, here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on our website, the Season of Self-Love podcast.com.
Let me ask you this, with the truth, is it...
All right, well, welcome back to this Season of Self-Love. I am your host, Nyomi Banks. In this month, we're talking about elevate your life, unlock your potential. And today we're talking about the action of your brain power. And before we get into the topic, let's first center ourselves with our daily meditation, all right? So I want you to find a comfortable space. Take a deep breath, centering yourself. Now I want you to feel your brain's natural wisdom, its ability to change, and its ability to grow. Breathe into new possibilities, into transformation, and into elevation. Feel your capacity for change and your readiness to grow and your power to evolve. Take one final breath, bringing this awareness with you and ready to create new patterns. All right, now you may open your eyes. All right, if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday here on the Season of Self-Love, just to help center ourselves before we get into the topic at hand. All right, so let's talk about from darkness to discovery. So yesterday, my beautiful people, Dr. Access, she shared something very powerful with us. She talked about her own journey through darkness that led to understanding on how our brains can transform, right? She talked about that in 2020 that she found herself in what she called complete darkness, where she was unable to let go of her past. I know for one, I was able to relate to her because I remember having COVID and I remember how the whole entire world shut down. But I also remember a conversation that her and I had after the show. And I shared that in that moment during that year is when I truly believed that my mother had really, this is where her dimension became to grow legs. This is where she spent the most time in her room when everything was shut down. The world was shut down, probably something that she never thought that would ever happen for her. At this moment, I think she was 69 years old. So in being that old and that age and understanding that the world has always went and gone, but now it has completely stopped, not understanding and knowing what's happening. So now you have nothing to do but to live in your past. So as my mother was seeing those stories and seeing her life flash before her eyes, that built a lot of things within her. It built resentment. It built anger. It built a whole lot of things that caused other toxic things to happen in her mind. But let's keep going to what Dr. Oxel was speaking. And she even, spoke about inspirational videos and motivational messages that made her feel worse. Even listening to inspirational videos and most of motivational messages made her feel worse. But is that in darkness that she made a profound discovery. It's so funny when we look at, they say that in darkness is when you see light. In darkness is when you see light. And when you really sit with that saying, it's like that's all that you can see is light because there's darkness around. And so you will want to see light. I guess that sounds kind of crazy, huh? Yeah. But she realized that 80% of us, we struggle with letting go, not because they don't want to, because they don't understand how their brain works with the change. So let's explore what she discovered through her own transformation. 1, tolerance. How she learned to gradually release old patterns. The way that she built new neuron pathways and understanding change, it takes time. It's funny, this morning I was listening to my Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. And I was thinking about changing our old ways of living and going into that new paradigm, right? And I had this conversation with a loved one yesterday. And I instantly jumped into that old version of me on putting myself out there to help. Today, when I was listening to Bob Proctor, he was saying about not forcing things, going against the natural law of what things are supposed to move. I'm known for doing that. So this morning, I had to stop myself and be like, hey, hold on. Wait a minute. You once again are moving too fast. Let's check this. Let's make aware of this. Let's understand what this is. All right. So let's create a whole new pathway and let's understand that, we're going to move forward. But what I didn't do is I didn't beat myself up for it because I knew that it takes time to change. I just start changing my paradigm, or better yet, actively knowing and being aware that I'm changing my paradigm. About a month and a half, almost 2 months ago. So I'm still new in it. So I still need to have tolerance for myself in going through it and understand that gradually I will release these patterns. You understand? So next, let's just talk about plasticity and her discovery that the brain can always create new patterns and how she rewired her thinking and the power of conscious change. Again, we talk about going back to the book of Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life is when you understand and you know about in making the decision and choices that I want to change. So now this is where you start to create those new patterns. It's so amazing that these last few guests are so aligned in what we have been talking about for the past month and a half. And when I say I promise you, I didn't seek these guests. These guests came and asked me to be a part, and they were just aligned, perfectly flow. You understand? Perfectly flowing, just for it to fall this way. So we can have a better understanding on exactly where we are in life, exactly how we can help with our mindset. We constantly talk about changing our mindset. Easy, right? It's like, no, we got to go down in there. We got to go down in there and we got to rewire some things. We have to decide to change some things. We have to actively do some things. We have to stop doing the bad habits that we're doing and change them to the new. But how do we do that? It's easily said than done. But how can we do that? But guess what? Let's go to the Season of Self-Love podcast. Because guess what? Naomi's going to help us. But not only is Naomi's going to help us, Naomi got a whole bunch of friends that's going to come on and they're going to help us too. We get ready to start serving one another and help one another, help each other to get through this. Yeah. And the third one, is adaptation. Making her change permanent. Building sustainable transformation and creating a new normal. It's about creating a new normal. So when I talk about next year being the rebirth, that's exactly what it is. This year was the year of domination for me. It's dominating in everything possible, whatever it was that was coming my way. Next year is rebirth. Next year is rebirth. All right, so let's talk about practical application. Just as Dr. Axa had to analyze her patterns for 3 years before making her breakthrough, we too need to understand our starting point. What touched me about her story was that once she identified what the needed to change, it took just 1 second to let go. But that second was built on deep understanding. So let's talk about how to work these natural brain processes, right? So Dr. Axis, she taught us that change happens in stages and that we can't rush our brain natural wisdoms, right? So here are 3 practices to support those brain transformation. One is awareness practice. She says, notice your current patterns and observe them without judgment. Understand your starting point. Know where you're starting from. Be honest with yourself. The next one is the growth practice. Take small, consistent steps. Build gradually and build a gradual tolerance, but also allow natural adaptation. And the last one is integration practice. Celebrate small changes and document them. Document your progress. And last, trust the process. Trust the process. The funny thing is, remember I was just telling you before about the story that I had about forcing yourself, forcing and pushing, forcing something that's not there or doing too much. That's what I'm saying, doing too much. And, I had to, kind of check myself is what I call it, check myself. But also in that process, I was like, okay, you were self-aware. You were self-aware. But also what I did with that is that, my sister is my accountability partner. So while I'm listening to, my 30 minutes, I actually listened for longer than that today, but I was listening to my 30 minutes of Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. As I am texting my sister, I'm letting her know exactly what is happening in real time. And I said, this is truly happening right now with me, is that I am going against the law by forcing a situation, by forcing something. And it's like I literally felt myself jumping, my old version of myself jumping out. And it's like I caught it and be like, okay, let's bring it back. But then also I say, you know what? I have to just enjoy in these moments and understand what this is and not force it. Be patient. Be patient in this journey. Enjoy every moment. That's something that I learned this week, and I didn't say this on Monday's show, is that one thing that I learned about breath when going to this retreat, The Art of Living, this past weekend is that, and it was never told to me like this before, is think of breath as a moment. Breath is the only thing is that is in the moment. I never thought about it like that. You don't think of breath in the past or in the future. You have to think of it in the moment because that is the very thing that you have to do to live. You need that. You can go, hours or days without water, without food. But breath, breathing? No, you can't. And that just held so much to me when I thought that. I was like, wow. So in me putting all of these things together in my mind, I was like, yeah, I need to truly enjoy this journey. Enjoy this process. Trust it because it has shown me so many amazing things. Just even yesterday from 2 amazing interviews that I had that were just shockingly aligned. And when you hear them later on this month, you're going to be like, oh my goodness. When I'm telling you it's flowing, it's flowing. Yes, it's flowing. And I am just so full. And I am so ready to be overflowing with it. That is one of my prayers and is to be overflowing, to be of constant overflowing, if that makes sense. All right, so what's beautiful about understanding our brain's natural process is that it takes the pressure off, that we don't have to force change, that we just need to work with our brain's natural wisdom. So let me share 3 key to sustaining transformation, all right? Start small. We say this all the time. Start small. Choose one pattern to shift. Take manageable steps and build consistent practice. The next one is stay patient. I just talked about that. Trust your brain's timing and allow natural adaptation and celebrate progress. Remember, Dr. Axel said it took her 3 years. 3 years, and once she understood it, it was that second, that was it. That was it. It was also something that I learned, and I think I saw that on Instagram or something like that, is not to compare your journeys or your travels with anyone else, because trust and believe you are not at the same space. And I'm probably saying it wrong, but I understood it. Their journey is not my journey. Like my journey is not your journey. So even though I'm speaking and we're hearing the same thing, your understanding will be totally different from mine because we will be at different places in our lives. Because you can only apply this to your life or what it is for today. Does that make sense? As well as I can only apply it to mine as today. And so there will be no comparison to anything. If anything, I can resonate with it and be like, oh. But I can't compare like, oh my God, she got there faster than me. Or, oh, I can't do that. I can never do that. I will never do that ever again. I just said that out loud. Never, ever do that again. Because our lives are different. For instance, my sister and I had the same mother, same father. We were in the same household, but we have two different outlooks on how we were raised. She has her own set, I have my own set. And if you ask my brother, he has a total different one than the two of us. So it's like what you take from this is your understanding. Just like of any book that you read, it's of your understanding. And what we do here as our community, we come together and we help one another understand each other's understanding of it, where we can come to a common ground. Does that make sense? And stay connected is the last one. Notice what works for you, adjust it as needed, and keep moving forward. And keep moving forward from that. But also, you know, that I love about Dr. Axe's story is that she just didn't heal herself. She just did not heal herself. She turned her healing into wisdom that can help others. And she showed us that even in her darkest moment, it can lead to profound and understanding. And I love that about that. So just as Dr. Axe needed to understand her patterns before she could change them, let's take time to understand ours. So before we close today, I want to give you what I call brain wisdom practice. I want you to take some time this evening to, one, choose one pattern that you like to change and write it down. Write down 3 small steps that you can take and create a simple way to track your progress. And I want you to remember, my beautiful people, is that your brain always knows to transform. Our job is just to support it in its natural wisdom. All right? Well, tomorrow we explore more powerful tools for transformation. And actually, we got a very special guest tomorrow. But until then, I want you to remember to love yourself first. This is your girl, the goddess Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you would like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.